Welcome to another Lore You Should Know segment. That's where me, Greg Tito, speaks to Chris Perkins.
Hello.
About little bits of Dungeons & Dragons lore that you can use in your game or just to impress people at parties.
Yes.
D&D parties, of course. Today, we're going to be talking about the Dark 8. Not to be confused with the Light 7.
Or the Circle of 8.
Or the Circle of 8. Or any other numbered, colorful groups out there.
Yes.
But what is the Dark 8?
They're the Spooky 8. The dark. Okay, so we have talked in the past about the Nine Hells.
Yes.
And we have talked about, at least touched on, the Lords of the Nine Hells. That is to say, Nine Hells has 9 layers. Each one has an archdevil sort of lording over it, with the head honcho, Asmodeus, or Asmodeus, if you prefer.
Both pronunciations are acceptable.
Exactly. Hanging out at the bottom on the 9th layer.
Yes.
So the Dark 8 are another power group in the Nine Hells.
Oh.
And they are all pit fiends, and they are the generals in charge of presiding over the Blood War.
Oh, okay.
And dealing with all things related to the Blood War. And for those who don't know, the Blood War is this everlasting conflict between evil forces of devils and demons that rages across the lower planes and spills out all over the place. It's very messy. It's been going on a long time. Asmodeus has basically entrusted these 8 generals to oversee that battle and to keep the demons at bay, drive them away from the Nine Hells, and also establish, camps and pockets of authority throughout the lower planes, but mainly on Hell. And these are like the 5-star generals. Right. So there are other generals in the Nine Hells, but these are the 8 5-stars who get together and say, this is how we're going to win the Blood War. And
do they have councils and
they do
meetings?
Yes, they meet 4 times a year in Malshim, which is the citadel palace of Asmodeus, to basically update Asmodeus on the state of the Blood War and also provide solutions or what their battle plans are going to be. And then if Asmodeus gives the thumbs up, off they go to orchestrate those plans. And I don't know why it's 4 times a year.
Do they even have years?
Not technically, no. There are no years in Hell probably feel.
So they
like
have their quarterly conversations and they
exactly
get reports. And
right? Yes. I think that's mostly from our perspective. Is in relative time, it seems like they get together 4 times a year.
They do their earnings reports. And
exactly. And so they're all sort of similar in power level because they are basically all the same. They're pit fiends.
Right.
But they are, in some respects, they have as much power as the archdevils do. Archdevils are concerned about their own layers and protecting and preserving the nature of their layers.
Yeah.
And they're very politically minded, but they're not necessarily tactically military minded.
I see.
So what Asmodeus needs to win the Blood War are sharpest military minds, and he's picked out these 8 pit fiends to do that.
And where is the front of the Blood War? I mean, you mentioned it spills out in other planes.
It does spill out in every place, but where it's often fought the most is on the first layer of the Nine Hells, which is Avernus. Because what happens is there is a thread that weaves through the lower planes known as the River Styx, and demons will use that as a channel to get from the abyss into other lower planes, including the Nine Hells. So if demons are going to attack the Nine Hells, that's where they're going to come out of the River Styx on the first layer.
Got it.
And so. But
are there pit fiends? I mean, are they mostly in Hell, or do they go to say, other planes that are not Hell or the abyss?
The 5 stars, the Dark 8 will basically stay in Hell.
Okay.
Because they have to update the boss.
But they could be on any layer, really.
Right, yeah. They move around on every layer. In fact, they spend most of their time on the first layer, on Avernus, keeping an eye on the ebb and flow of demons coming out of the River Styx.
I see.
And modifying their plans accordingly.
Do they ever take the offensive and go to the abyss?
Yeah, they do. Not personally, generally, but they do send sorties and forces and legions out as opportunities allow, if they think they can actually gain a foothold there for any length of time. Now, occasionally, the archdevil ruler of Avernus can't really do much about that. The Dark Eight pretty much have autonomy.
Okay.
Because they don't report to anybody other than Asmodeus.
I see.
And so if they show up and start moving legions around on Avernus, the Archduke of Avernus kind of has to soak it up. That's almost never a problem because, you want your top tactical minds helping you defend the layer that you've been charged with protecting.
Right.
And in fact, certain overlords of Avernus have had good relations with the Dark Eight. Bel, particularly, is well regarded by the generals of the Dark Eight.
He was a pit fiend at one point, right?
And he is also very sharp tactical mind. In fact, he's widely regarded as the most gifted military mastermind in Hell.
To this day. Because he's still, even though he's no longer an Archduke, he's still...
He technically has Archduke status. He's just not the ruler of the plane anymore.
Oh, I see.
So it turns out having a keen military mind isn't necessarily the most important thing to running a layer.
I see.
And Asmodeus has been known to remove people from their positions of rulership for reasons that have nothing to do with skill or talent.
Do the Dark Eight have names? Are they named characters?
They are. They've had a number of names. Occasionally, if one of them gets killed off somehow, an accident on a front line, getting too close to battle or whatever, it might be replaced. But they've been around pretty steadily for a long time. One of them is named Baal-Zephon. Another is named Zimimar. I'm trying to remember them all. Zabos. There's one that's named Furcus and one that's named Corin. We're going to be introducing a new one, I hope, in the future.
Yeah.
Mostly because they were a really cool bitchin' piece of art for it.
They've been kicked out, or killed, and there's a replacement for the Dark Age.
Yeah, another one sort of come up through the ranks.
Right.
Plus, one of the things we'd like to show, canonically speaking, over time, is the idea of promotion. Hell is all about getting promoted up through the ranks.
Right.
Devil's getting promoted
and having an
all the
order
time.
of like, here's the pecking order.
Exactly. So, just as we've done with the archdukes and occasionally shaken them up a bit, it's like, okay, well, Bel is no longer in, Zariel's in, Bel's out.
Yeah.
Before that, maybe Tiamat. Back to the first edition, Tiamat used to be the ruler of the first layer of the Nine Hells.
Right.
There's always seems to be a shakeup going on, and part of just making it seem like a real place where promotion actually manifests. We occasionally like to shake things up. So if we get a chance in the future, we'll probably shake up the Dark Eight a little bit. Keep most of them around, but maybe replace one or two.
I always like that too because it feels reminiscent of Greek gods and Greek stories like that, where it's like, okay, there were the Titans and those were overthrown, and now there's the Olympian gods and things like that. There's that idea of like it's you can think of a pantheon, but it's always ever changing and shifting based on the stories that are told. And
what we usually do is we try to go dive back into lore and find out who are some devils, sort of up and comers that we can promote. Like one of the ones I was looking
40
at,
under 40.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the ones I was looking at was an ice devil. I think it was introduced back in a drag. So a lot of the formative stuff about the Dark Eight. The Dark Eight, I think, came into existence with the second edition product Guide to Hell by Chris Pramis. But before then, Ed Greenwood and Gary Gygax had written numerous articles about the power structures and politics of the Nine Hells in Dragon magazine. And they listed out scores of devils and gave them personalities and little bits and bobs of information about them. And so one of the ones I got my eye on is Meritos. He was an ice devil back in first edition. I'm thinking he deserves a promotion.
Nice devil.
Yeah. Nice.
He's going to get promoted. I like that.
Yeah.
Right. I like that there's a roster. And then
right.
Like, how could this one's got some promise. We'll see how he does.
So if you're dealing with anything related to the Blood War, chances are that if the devils are involved, the Dark Eight are going to be mentioned or name dropped or show up at some point.
Makes sense. I know I asked this, but like, is it possible for dungeon masters to have some of these Dark Eight happen? Say like a scenario like Out of the Abyss, where demons were attacking the Forgotten Realms.
Into the realms,
right?
Yeah.
Would there be a pit fiend, one of these Dark Eight generals that could perhaps be swayed to be on the player character's side just to fight off this demon incursion?
Oh, absolutely. I think if nothing else, devils are pragmatists, and if there's a greater threat, they will easily come to some deal or arrangement. Now, it might be a little more costly than you think it is.
Yes, as it always is.
Yes, exactly. But they're happy to do so. Pit fiends are super intelligent creatures, and so any opportunity to get any sort of advancement or to look good in the eyes of their bosses will be seized upon instantly. And they're quite happy to put aside any philosophical differences
just
to get the job done
and get that star A+.
Yeah, right. Yeah, their focus, as keen military minds, their focus is on winning the war, and whatever it takes. That's okay.
And that's a pretty. I like that commentary on war in general.
Exactly.
There.
And
That's
when the blood
interesting.
war does spill over to the material plane, which it does on occasion, it's not out of the ordinary for a member of the Dark Eight or a similarly highly powerful pit fiend to show up and offer, say, a king advice, not for free, but advice on how to quell the threat.
Yeah, and perhaps make a deal with that. With
and
that
a king
leader.
looking at the difference between rampaging demons, tearing down the kingdom, and maybe negotiating a sweet deal with one pit fiend who means him no harm is a good deal.
Pit fiends.
Yeah,
they could be your friends.
Right.
Yeah.
And thus the seeds of future calamity are sown.
And that's a really interesting idea of how far would you be willing to go? Would you make a deal with a devil in order to save your town?
Exactly. Right. Is that the lesser of two evils?
Right. But and then what are the consequences of that action? Years to come.
Right.
Yeah.
There have been in D&D canon some deals like that made.
Yeah.
Probably the best known one is the deal that Thavius Krieg of Baldur's Gate made, which I'm sure we can talk about in a future podcast.
All right. We'll delve into that for sure.
Yeah.
Any other kind of ways to use these Dark Eight characters in campaigns now?
That's a very good question. So you could use, I like to think of them. So I grew up watching James Bond movies and Star Trek a lot. And one of the things you sort of pick up after watching a bunch of those is that there's a lot of corrupt generals and admirals.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking about World War II movies too. There just feels like there's a lot of self-serving things that happen over the course of.
So for some reason in stories, there's always the story about the general who's gone bad or the admiral who's up to no good or things like that. That kind of story could easily be mirrored in a D&D adventure where, say, you're in a campaign and there's some evil force or cult that's running arming people with weapons or something like that, or gun running, or the equivalent of gun running, but in a medieval sense. Yeah. Trying to control weaponry to start or foment a war. Having a member of the Dark Eight basically be the power behind that, the one who's orchestrating that, could be a lot of fun. Yeah. And they might be doing it without the knowledge of the other members of the Dark Eight, acting independently to sort of push their own, to score an easy win.
Get a feather in their cap.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And a few souls to boot. Yeah. So you could easily do that. The idea of the generals thinking that, this plane, this material plane that we're on, this planet that we're on, might be the future site of a blood war incursion. So we're going to make some inroads here and start to prepare to turn this into a battlefield. And so they might go there to scope it out, to organize cults in the area to help them prepare for what's going to be a very gnarly battle.
Do pit fiends? What do they look like? What would each of these characters look like?
Well, pit fiends are big, scary, hulking, brutish, horned fiends with big wings and huge, smashy weapons that usually are lit on fire.
But each of them look a little bit different. Right? Each of the Dark Eight would appear different, or they?
So there is some variability with devils in terms of their appearance. That while there's a certain type, they have a kind of a
body shape,
or a silhouette, if you will. There you can have some variety. Like this guy's got a bit of a broken horn, or he's got more horns than normal, or his color, or her color, or its color. I guess its is probably a better term for a pit fiend. They're kind of genderless. Yeah, and its color might be different.
They're covered in might be different.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
purplish.
So,
to red to orangish.
I have a piece of art on my computer that has a pit fiend with white flesh and white wings. It's really quite shocking.
Interesting. Yeah, because you do think of it almost as being these reds and oranges.
Right, they're typically reds and oranges or browns.
Yeah.
But they can be off color. They can have all kinds of extra elements to them. They can also have fur or not.
Wings. Wings with holes in them. Yeah. Claws on the end of the wings.
Yeah, you can even get weirder and say, well, this guy's got, 6 arms. Because fiends are just meant to be manifestations of evil incarnate. Mm-hmm. And, that means you have playground of possibilities.
So in the scenario you were saying about them scoping out in the material plane, could they disguise themselves to look human?
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Pit fiends they have a prescribed set of spell-like abilities, but also pit fiends can have unique abilities. Like Bell, for instance, has a number of unique spellcasting abilities, and that's part of the reason why he's super powerful. So they can easily assume benign, benevolent forms.
Right, through an alter self.
Exactly.
Or something like
that. Yeah. The court jester might in fact be a pit fiend.
Right, one of these Dark Eight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or a general that's like, hey, I'll come and help you out because I'm a general. And
yes,
by the way, these men can help you out too, but then they're all devils.
Given the nature of hell, there's always people gunning for the Dark Eight's jobs. So it could be another pit fiend who thinks that by basically saving this kingdom and defeating the blood war on the prime material plane, I'll get on Asmodeus' radar and become one of his 5-star generals.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like that kind of deception.
Exactly. Deception is their forte, and power plays are their
just sign the contract.
Dessert. Yeah. It's really simple. I'll help you defend your kingdom. All it takes is I need you to sign this contract.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, very exciting. If people want to sign, offer their services to you as a general,
as a future pit fiend general,
how can they get in touch with you?
I am on Twitter at Chris Perkins DND.
Excellent. All right. Well, looking forward to talking to you about more lore in the future.
Lore,
and data.
Hey, nice Star Trek reference.
That's right. I've been so deep down in the Game of Thrones, I haven't gotten into Discovery, but the second season, people are saying it's really good.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it because I don't subscribe to the
CBS.
The CBS, yeah.
But I hear good things.
Oh,
and I want to get back into Star Trek. Yeah, it's fun stuff. All right. Well, I don't think we have time to do a third, unless you really want to. Did you?
I don't know. Do you have anything after this? Because we can keep going.
Actually, we don't because I believe Binwin's Plays is not on today, so we can certainly do that.
We can knock one out.
Yeah, let's get a third. It's always good to have more in the can.
Yeah, I was thinking the Dukes and Patriarchs of Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.